All right. Well, we have some new people joining us here. It looks like there's a couple more that joined us. Thank you for joining us today. It looks like we're we're going to be starting in a few seconds. Thank you again. This is my name is Andy Hollander. I am the VP uh, of events, which have turned into something different as we are now in the digital virtual age. So I hope that you're all, first of all, safe and well, and that you are, thriving in this time, and it's unprecedented time. And at the AMA Northeast Ohio, we're trying to do things to just help you understand what you're looking for as far as content. So as we continue to build out events like this one, we're trying to keep you in mind. So any feedback after this event, we'd be open to hearing what other content that you might be interested in hearing. Any other networking opportunities. We're putting on a virtual event next Thursday at 5. So we'd love to have you there. And so today, this one is going to focus on mental health strategies as we're working from home. So with me today, I have Justin Hayes, and he is a member of our board at AMA Northeast Ohio. He's in our collegiate relations. He is our president-elect for next year, which starts in June, and we're excited to have him there in that position. And today, he's going to be presenting for us. So Justin, I'm just going to introduce you. I know we've got more people joining us as we go.
Yeah.
But this will be a good time to just kind of give your background and what this topic is going to be about. So I'm going to start, and if there's any hand raising that you need to do, I know you're on mute, and you can put anything in the Q&A. I'll look at that from time to time. I'm going to be mostly kind of running the show from the back end, and Justin will be talking through. But at any time you have something that you want to talk about, put it in there, and I'll glance from time to time to see if there's any hands raising. Again, we're really thankful that you joined us, and basically what Justin's going to talk about is mental health strategies and working from home. And a little bit about him: he is a professor of marketing. He is author of The House of You, which is 5 workforce preparation tips for a successful career coach at the House of You, and president-elect at the American Marketing Association of Northeast Ohio Professional Chapter. Justin is passionate about helping others navigate their own mental health journey through engaging lectures and workshops. His lectures and literature draw from lived personal experience fueled by a near-death incident that completely changed his outlook on life. Justin is now an entrepreneur, public speaker, certified in mental health first aid, and is an advocate for many. And Justin, it's a pleasure to have you to speak on this. Give us a little overview of your journey, who you are, and this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Andy, and thanks everyone for joining today. Really excited to have you here with us and to be able to talk about mental health strategies here in the working from home environment. And a lot of the content I'm going to cover can also be used when we pivot to not having to work from home. But yeah, I'm very passionate about mental health, obviously. So 2.5 years ago, I was clinically diagnosed with major depression, generalized anxiety disorder, and low spectrum autism, which focuses more on the sounds and the volume and the lights. As far as flashing lights really bother me. I had been shopping prior to the diagnosis, and I literally had to leave the leave the grocery store because the lights and the stimulation was just so overpowering to me. But yeah, 2.5 years ago, it was really when things came to a head. I was on my way over to the doctor office to drop off some test results, and I started to black out, not from having any drugs or alcohol in my system, but I was just blacking out, and so pulled over and called 911. Had the ambulance come, pick me up. They ended up taking me to the hospital. This ended up being the third emergency room visit that I had had in 2 weeks. And each time I had been released with the results of saying, Justin, you're okay. Just go home and make sure you're exercising and, take a deep breath. And I was having kind of all those conversations coming back to me. Um, and it really wasn't until that day when I was taken to the emergency room and I had been there so many times in a short amount of time that really the medical team at the hospital really started looking at my mental health. And that was something that prior to that time, I really hadn't spent a lot of time looking into. I felt that I could do everything on my own. I could conquer everything. I could handle things. I could just Google and I could find out what was wrong with me and what I needed to do to start to feel better. What ended up happening when I was diagnosed, the main reason I was uh, admitted to the hospital was due to low nutrition. So my major depression, anxiety, and the low spectrum autism, all those manifested itself to me in multiple different ways. But that day specifically, it was on nutrition. I was down to eating between 200 to 400 calories a day. I was feeling like I was allergic to almost every food out there, and I never had any food allergies prior to that time. And so I was actually only eating hummus and carrots, which is crazy. As I sit here today, removed 2.5 years from that time. And one thing that I've always kept with me that kind of reminds me of my lowest point are these pair of socks. And so these are just normal, everyday socks that can be worn. And these are the socks that I was given when I was in the hospital for 5 days when I was going through my treatment. And so the socks represent the lowest time I feel in my life, but also it allows me at this time to reflect back on that time and saying, look how far I've come. I've come so far to not only help myself and help my mental health, but I'm in a position and have the platform today to be able to hopefully share with all of you some of the strategies that I have learned over the last 2.5 years. And all these strategies can really be implemented today. There's nothing that's really, I guess, super advanced that you have to do to really take a hold of the strategies. So just keep that in mind. And not all these strategies you'll be able to tackle, obviously, all at once. Just maybe focus on one or maybe focus on a part of one and then continue. I like to quote history, and John F. Kennedy, one of our presidents, says that every accomplishment starts with the decision to try. And so I just challenge you today and in the future to just try to, make mental health a part of your everyday living, as we all have mental health. It's not just us individuals that have a mental illness that have mental health. We have mental illnesses, but we all have mental health. Every single one of us across the entire world, we have that. So yeah, since that time, I really accepted my mental illnesses, and I don't use them as crutches. I really use them as a source of strength to help others, especially at this time. And so I'm going to focus on acceptance a lot today, that it's okay to feel like we're boxed in this work from home environment, that we're not able to get out as much as we'd like to do. And so I just ask and challenge you to accept that that's where we're at, but that's not permanent. It's not something that is going to be the case for all eternity. This is a moment in time. This is a period of time that, yep, we're here and we're in this work from home environment, but it's not always going to be like that. I read a story about an individual who was doing an individual trek across Antarctica, and they had minus 60-degree days outside, and he didn't know if he was going to be able to make it from the western end of Antarctica to the eastern end, which was his goal. And one thing that he had said after he completed his goal was, people were asking him, hey, so how did you get through those times? And he said, one of the main reasons and the main things that I did was I said, this is a moment in time and this too shall pass. So just like that, I feel that if an individual is doing something very complex and very hard to do, to really fathom to do, that we can definitely here today as human beings take a step forward and continue to put our mental health first and prioritize that. So we're going to get started. Looks like with a poll. Our first strategy today is around sleep. So I think Andy is going to pull up. So really what we're going to look at for this is, what is the average amount of time you get sleep per night? And this is all anonymous. You can do it right from your screen. Yep, we have people jumping in as we speak. We have 6 to 8 hours having to lead, 4 to 6 hours. We'll give it a minute or so to go. But yeah, as I get started with the sleep as the poll is going on, I never prioritized sleep prior to my diagnosis. I really looked at sleep as, it's a nice to have, it's a nice thing to do. Yep, I'll do it on the weekend, or I'll do it after I finish this project, or after I finish teaching this course. And really, that was something that was brought to light with my treatment, which was sleep. Not only did my psychiatrist and therapist put forward a plan that was going to help me during the day, which was what I was looking for, to be able to get through the days and be able to get back to my nutrition, to eating, to get back to having, being a social being as we human beings are, and not be, canceling things at the last minute. That was never me. And so what really surprised me was the fact that one of the strategies was sleep. And part of my treatment is around that. I was, prior to that time, getting, I would say, maybe 4 or 5 hours of sleep if I was lucky. And even during those 4 to 5 hours, it wasn't really good sleep. I was up most of the time, and I really didn't feel refreshed the next day. Not that I felt that I was going to be 100% a new person for sleeping the amount of time that I should as an adult, which is 7 to 9 hours. Yale University and Harvard and many others have studies out there that for adults, that's where we should really be. Ideally, averaging 8 hours would be great, but understanding we have challenges as individuals and as caretakers to family members. I have a 1-year-old, so I understand how hard it is to uh, manage her schedule and also manage my schedule. But my wife's been instrumental in being able to help me do that. And so I would really recommend that you just take a look at that. So we have 70% of our participants are in that 6 to 8 hours. The individuals that are getting 4 to 6 hours, that's exactly where I was at. And the misconception that I found from not sleeping was that if I just answer one more email, if I just move forward and put this last thought on paper for my book or for a lecture that I'm having, if I just do that right now, then I won't have to do that tomorrow morning, and then I'll be able to start in a better place. And what I found was that advancement, promotion, that doesn't come just because you stay up late and you get that last email, that last project done to put you in a better position for the next day. What really matters is being able to bring it to the meetings, to be able to lead discussions, lead negotiations, to help others. Whatever your profession is, that is really the goal, and that's really when you're going to have the best opportunity to move forward. So having that sleep and having that uh, refreshed mind is going to be helpful. What I found out was that sleep really allows our brains to recharge and our bodies to rest. So there's a lot of muscles that go on to be repaired during that time. Our memory is consolidated, and we would just be happier and healthier and even safer if we sleep 60 to 90 more minutes a night. And what I mean by safer is that time when I was admitted into the hospital, I was driving. I had no business to be driving, and being in that position, I was putting not only myself at risk, but I was putting others on the roads as well at risk. So that's where I bring up the uh, being safer in that respect. It also, if we don't get that, let's say that bottom of our pull with the 7 to 9 hours, if we don't get that, we adults, and this is going to be noted in the references at the end card, that if we don't get that amount of sleep and rest, we adults feel 21% more stressed. And so stress leads to obviously being uneasy, to anxiety, to being rush doing certain things that you may not have, maybe rushing through a project or an email. And the thing is, this isn't just one day where it's like, oh, okay, well, it's just one day. These things just stack up over time. So for me, I had over 30 years, I'm 38 years old now. I had over 30 years plus where I wasn't getting the sleep, when the anxiety and the depression and the lights and the sounds, all these things were really manifesting themselves. And it really at that time was the breaking point. And so fortunately for me, I was able to get the help I needed, and uh, I'm able to bring just that experience to hopefully help you here today. And when we're stressed, we feel irritable, angry, overwhelmed, lacking interest, losing patience, all that fun stuff. So I'm going to throw out a question, and this usually works better with an on-site type of a program. But what do Albert Einstein, LeBron James, and Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, all have in common? So not only are the three of the individuals I just mention individuals that are high profile, top at their game, but they also have in common that they all need, and for Albert Einstein in the past, needed and needs and do take 8 hours of sleep each night. And so that was just something that was very interesting for me to find out that, okay, well, especially like LeBron James and Jeff Bezos, they might have a team to be able to help them to manage all that. But the one fun fact about LeBron that I did find, not only does he schedule in 8 hours of sleep every night, but he also, on game days, he has to have a 2 hour nap prior to the game. So let's say his game was going to be tipping off at 1 p.m. He would sleep the 8 hours the night before, and then he would wake up, probably go to the shoot around, and he would take a 2 hour nap prior to that 1 p.m. Game. And that was very interesting just to hear that. And so my old self would say, oh, he's lazy. That's a lazy person. He's sleeping all day. But it's just very interesting to find that out. And then another fun fact, talking about the animal side, the cheetah. The cheetah is the fastest land mammal, and they're able to run as fast as up to 70 miles an hour. And obviously, animals have a different lens than us humans, but the cheetah gets 17 plus hours of sleep every day. I just throw that in to show that the cheetah has to, and all animals that are fast and cunning in their own ways, they have to have energy to do what they do. So whether that's fly a certain distance, certain types of birds, whether that is the cheetah to run at that speed, whatever that is, they need energy to do that. Uh, Now I understand that all this talk about sleep, that you know if you're going to add it and look to add sleep hours and minutes to your regimen, I understand that you're going to have to pick and choose. There's going to be things you're going to have to, uh, you know, cut back on. So that might be cutting back on your devices, maybe a half hour before bed, or little things. Okay, I'm not going to answer emails after a certain time because I'm going to start prioritizing my sleep. I'm going to get an extra minute tonight or tomorrow or whatever that may be. What I will say that while we may not be able to manage 100% our sleep due to having children and other things that may be taking our time and our attention, is the thought around sleep hygiene. So sleep hygiene is nothing more than the routine you have before you go to sleep. So for my daughter, I'll just throw out as an example. Some nights she gets a bath, some nights she doesn't. We usually do every other night, depending if she's dirtier than not. But every night, regardless if she gets a bath or not, we change her regular diaper to the evening diaper. We change her from her clothes that she was wearing to her pajamas. Then we take her to her room and we sit down and read her a story or two. And she sometimes we're weaning her off a bottle at night. Some nights she'll have a bottle and some nights she won't. But she has that routine, no matter if she gets the full amount of sleep that a child should get of her age or not. She has that embedded into her subconscious. And so I would ask that that'd be something that I think you could get started right away on, that you could look to just start there. And if nothing else, you can start that routine, or if you have that routine, continue that routine. That's excellent. So we're going to move on to another fun strategy is screen time. And I believe Andy has a second poll up where we're going to ask, let's see here. Okay, how many devices with screens do you currently have in front of you, including phones, TVs, laptops, tablets, Nintendo Switch? Just looking kind of the number that are within your grasp or within your locale. And so the fact of mine, so I have the screen, the netbook that I have right now up, so that's one. I have my phone, that is two, and I have a TV, which is maybe about 10 or 15 feet behind me. So I have three. Okay, we have two of four, we got four with three, and we have two with two. And I can't count how many, all the screens in my secret layer. So
Thanks
this,
for somebody for
but
posting that one. Thank you.
that was
You
you,
get
Andy.
bonus. No, somebody gets bonus points, and I appreciate it.
Oh,
My
nice.
lair.
Yeah, I like it. So yeah, as the poll is kind of continuing, I'll continue with my second strategy is around screen time. So the strategies I'm talking about, they all, I guess, go in order that I like to think. I think in visual terms. So sleep is kind of that bedrock or that foundation, and then everything kind of builds off of that. So screen time. Uh, my recommendation, if you can, is to limit the screen time and screen activity you have during the day. I know that may be difficult, but even a couple extra minutes where you're able to stand up and stretch or go outside for a walk and get some fresh air. That would be my big recommendation here. Uh, but the other big recommendation I have is not only just during the day, but at night. So what dovetails into sleep that I just mentioned was having screens near us near bedtime. And in case you didn't know, something that I found out kind of in my research preparing for this, and then also find out in my real personal life that it does add into value here with screen time that I hadn't thought about. And this comes around the blue light that is emitted with devices and screens. So there's a spectrum on the high end of blue light that is meant to stimulate us. And so the screens are meant to stimulate us to focus in and to continue on a task, whether that's the netbook, whether that's the phone, whether that's the television, and even our cost effective for electricity, our LED lights. There is a high frequency of blue that does reflect off of those as well. And so what that does is that light continues to stimulate you, whatever you're doing at that time. And so if you're getting ready to wind down, going to bed, and you, like I was, and I do sometimes now, I'm not perfect, check an email right before bed, or check social media or the news, whatever that may be. Uh, that stimulation eats into the time for our body to rejuvenate and to wind down for bed. And so, what I actually found by doing research was that there are these blue light blocking glasses. I don't know if you can tell with the screen. Have it kind of set on the dark mode. But what these glasses do, they're everyday glasses, and you can get based off of if you wear glasses, contacts, uh, whatever your personal preference is, to go on Amazon or wherever you would like. And these glasses were $20. And what this does is this reflects that high frequency blue light. So instead of at the end of the day being having my eyes feel kind of that burnout feeling, that very tired feeling, I wear these glasses for the most part during the day, so that in the evening time, then I'm able to be more refreshed and more, I guess, not tired as I would be if I would not have these on. And it's funny because I was on a web call uh, for my church group. I think it was either this week or last week. And one of the individuals he had mentioned, he said, "Oh yeah, those are cool glasses," because he could see the blue light that was reflecting off. And so no, these glasses don't take away the blue color, so you're going to still be able to see the shades of blue. What this does is that high frequency, that extra stimulation that high frequency blue is, it's going to reflect that, and it's going to reflect, I believe, 85 to 90% of it. And that's something that I found that it was very helpful for me, and it may be helpful for you if you haven't checked into that. Uh, but yeah, my screen time, as well as maybe yours, was and is based around that fear of missing out. What am I gonna miss if I just finish this one last task? Uh, that was those types of things really uh, didn't need. I found out didn't need to be done at that moment in time. It could wait till the next day. And I realized that, okay, what am I going to get? Am I going to get a prize for responding to this email tonight? I'm not. I'm not going to get a prize for checking my email 100 times a day or 50, which is outrageous. But that's what I was doing. It was crazy. Um, and what also I found was short sleep, which can be affected by the extra screen time, has a high correlation to depression. And so that's really where I fit in. That was one huge thing that I definitely was on overdrive before my diagnosis. And I could put a checkbox by that for me. Like, yep, that's me. What else I also did, which sounds even crazier, is I went from having an iPhone, having all the apps I needed, all the way back and moved back to a flip phone. So the old school flip phone that my dad just moved on to the smartphone just recently. But I went back after that diagnosis, and I said, you know what, I need to go back to ground zero. There's nothing that I'm going to do today that is going to impact my life as much as needing to get better on the mental side. So if I don't respond to that email because I didn't log on to the computer at 9, 10 o'clock at night before I go to bed, so be it. I'll respond tomorrow or whenever it falls into my queue. That It's something that is very, very telling. And if that's something that resonates with you, I've been there and done that. And it's only recently that I went back to the iPhone, that I feel mentally, uh, between the regimen with my psychiatrist and therapist, my visits, that I'm able to manage that. I'm doing well. I could be doing better, but I'm doing well, and uh, being mindful of these things is really giving me another perspective on how I can live without having to have every screen near me on. And during this work from home time, it's very easy. We have a screen or two or three or four near us that we can just turn around or walk into the other room and turn on the TV, or just check out your phone or whatever that may be. And I think that's really where some of the things that we're talking about today that hopefully can help you, at least give you perspective in that. So we're going to move on to content consumption, which builds off of the screen time. So why why did I and why may you and others want to check those screens? It's for the content that is on those screens. Sports has been scaled back a ton now, but I remember prior to my diagnosis, I would be up watching sports till 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then try to go to bed. My body was having a hard time winding down, and I really wasn't obviously getting the sleep I needed. And it really went back to not only the screen time, but what was on those screens. It was those sensationalized stories, whether it's politics or a certain issue that's out there, whether it's a social media post, somebody responded to a post that negatively in your Twitter feed, whatever that may be. Those are things that I've learned to really put the blinders on for a lot of that, and it's really saved my mind some capacity to actually focus on what I think are the important things about being in the moment, not worrying about the future or the past so much, living each day, spending that time I have extra with my 1-year-old daughter that I wouldn't get to spend, being there in that moment and not being so fixated on having to check my phone in that respect. And what I found as well is I thought that if something positive happened, like let's say you get a promotion, that's a great thing. It's an awesome achievement, but it is a little bit stressful. Then in that boat, and what sometimes happened was, okay, I'm promoted, more money, more I'm in a more authoritative position, but it's also stress. It's good stress, but it's also stress. I thought that stress only manifested itself in the form, whether it's bad stress, something negative happens that the body responds to. And that's not the case. Our bodies can't discern between positive stress and negative stress, good or bad. Our bodies can't discern. They just know it's stress. And so I'm not here to tell you to totally live a melancholy, very simple, boring life. I am here just to tell you that that may be why you may be feeling a little more anxious during a certain time, that it is stress, and stress is a good thing. Stress comes back from our ancestors and that fight or flight mechanism, where during times of stress, the blood rushes to our legs, because it was during those times that we were in that fight or flight. Like, we have a lion or a tiger chasing after us, so we got to run. So the body sends a message, the brain sends a message to send that blood flow to the legs, because you have to get away from that. That is something huge that I found, where I would be in meetings and I would totally have all this anxiety and stress, and I could just feel that the lightheadedness and the dizziness come over me. And what ended up happening was that was explained to me by my therapist, and it now makes sense. So when I am stressed, I'm able to say, "Yep, I'm having stress," internally to myself, but I don't remove myself from that moment. During that moment, I am having stress, but that doesn't mean, once again, that it is forever. It is just a moment in time, and this too shall pass. So let's move on to our fourth strategy, kind of building onto that. Uh, I'm not a exercise science backgrounded individual. I try to keep this as simple as I can. Get out, get some fresh air, take a walk, get up and stretch. We're in this time of working from home and feeling kind of boxed in. Whether you're in a home office or you're at the kitchen table or the dining room, wherever you may be. Once again, it might feel better. Like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to answer this email, or I'm going to finish this project, or I'm going to send this text out, or I've always been meaning to add this particular product in Amazon to my cart so I don't forget about it, so I can purchase it at a later time. Whatever it may be, we're all guilty of it. I am. And so keep it simple, keep it easy. Set a timer for every hour or every 90 minutes to go off to get to stretch. Just get up and walk around your house, walk around your condo, apartment, wherever you may be. Just get some of that blood flowing. Take a walk outside if you're able to do that around your neighborhood or your complex. That's something that I have found, and there's research backs it, that exercise puts these endorphins into motion in our bodies, and really is able to negate the cortisol. If you've ever heard of that, that is something that is basically produced during times of stress, and it tends to have consequences of certain diseases that I'm not going to get into, but it's just something to keep in mind, that something as simple as a 10-minute walk or a 5-minute walk, or put your if you're an Apple individual, put your AirPods or your headphones in, and put on some music during your walk. One thing that I thought I'd never listen to is classical music. I'd always listen to kind of pop and the alternative rock. And one thing I found that kind of goes in hand with the stress is classical music. Classical music, I never thought that I would actually enjoy listening to it, but what classical music does for me, and everybody is different, classical music relaxes my mind, but it also adds a little bit of creativity, because my mind and my brain is not just listening to the drums, the guitar, the bass, and a singer. It's listening to an orchestra of different instruments. And so what does that do? It hits on certain parts of the brain that sometimes aren't fired because we're just listening to certain types of music. And so with that popular music that I'd listen to, my heartbeat would go up because it was, songs that I would like. And so I would really know when that would be happening. And before I would have a speaking engagement, I'd like, why am I extra nervous for this? But once I started to implement listening to, which I did today, I listened to a little bit of Mozart, a couple of songs prior to this webinar, and it really was able to level set myself and to really just be even keel, not to be too amped up and not to be too low. So just food for thought. You may want to check into it. You don't have to turn into me and be as extreme as you may think that I am, but I just want to throw that out there. Number 5, nutrition. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not here to tell you what to eat, what not to eat, but I'm here to tell you to eat. That was something, as in my kickoff to this webinar, that I spoke about my nutrition, that I was eating between 100 and 400 calories a day. That was really the indicator that really was driving home what was wrong with me. And then the diagnosis kind of came after that. I had lost, I believe it was 35 pounds from where I was at. Uh, and it was just something that I was so wound up in the fear of missing out. I had to do this task. I had to call this person. I had to finish this email, whatever it was. I was so into that I wasn't really in my own body almost, because I was doing all these things out here, but I really wasn't taking control and accepting myself and doing the most important things of, eating, sleeping, those types of basic things that were just programmed to us as early as when we're born. So I just asked you make time for that. And in this work from home environment, it's very easy to push a meal back. Like, okay, maybe you used to eat when you're in the office, maybe between 12 and 1 or 11:30 and 12:30. Um, then maybe you're not eating until maybe 1 or 1:30 certain days. And obviously it can't be perfect every single day, but the more days than not, just to make sure that you are consuming consuming food. Because as crazy as it sounds, I was in that place that I wish nobody to ever have to be in that place, that to be that dire in a position. So strategy number 6, productivity. Uh, what I ask and recommend here is just try not to compensate for perceived lost productivity by working longer hours. So that's where the device is, how many devices we have, near us. If you have the phone and you can shoot an email out to a colleague or a vendor, whatever that may be, you might not have done that, 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. Were you in the office working in your regular workspace? So have your time for work, and then have your time for yourself, your personal life, your family. That's really my recommendation there. Slide here on alcohol that we're going to go to. Once again, not here to tell you to drink alcohol or to not drink alcohol. Before I was diagnosed, I probably was in a category of abusing alcohol, to the point that my life was probably revolving around that instead of revolving around myself, my well-being, and my family. I skipped out on a lot of family events and functions because I had to go out and pregame and then go to the club or whatever that was. Part of that is maturity, but then part of it is something as dangerous, an addiction. And that is something that, sitting here today, I can say that I haven't had a drink of alcohol in over 2.5 years. So I'm glad for that. And so what I do if I'm out with individuals at a bar that may be drinking, I drink sparkling water. And a lot of times they'll bring it in a fancy champagne glass. So uh, it's just something that I've just learned to accept that is who I am now, and I'm okay. I'm okay being around people that are drinking or not drinking. I believe in myself. I believe in where I'm at, and so that's really all that matters. Believe in yourself, accept who you are, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. Because when I was in the hospital, my friends, that I had, a lot of them didn't know I was there, and then also coworkers, a lot of them, weren't in the loop there. Um, and really the only thing that mattered outside of the care that I was getting and the regimen and being diagnosed was to, have my wife and have immediate family with me. So at the end of the day, that's what I found, that it's most important, to have those around you that you love. And alcohol was really taken away from that, and that was just kind of another ray of uh, negativity that I had in my life. Uh, and then the last thing here is alcohol is a depressant. You probably know this. Uh, so just to keep that in mind, and it can interfere with sleep and sleep hygiene. So that's something to just take into account when you're trying to piece all these things together. Moving on to strategy number 8. So social distancing is the popular and one of the most hashtag phrases out there. But I like to think of it actually not just physical social distancing, but really another layer down and being it's actually physical distancing. It's not telling us we can't be social with individuals. It's just saying physically it is harder to be social with individuals. It's not saying that we can't be on a call like this in a webinar versus an on-site event. It's not telling us that we can't, have a play date with one of our children's friends. It's not telling us, we can't FaceTime or Skype or whatever your method of video communication is. It's not telling us we can't do that with our loved ones. I do that probably every couple days with my family. Obviously, they want to see my daughter and see how she's growing and progressing. But it's partially for me too, and it's partially for my wife. It's just being able to be social, to have a conversation with somebody else that isn't living directly under the same roof, and to get out of your mind and get out of my mind of whether the worry of what's going on when different uh, regulations are going to be lifted and what's that going to look like and when can things get back to normal. There's plenty of time for that, but I just ask that uh, don't let the social distancing term kind of turn you away. It is the physical distancing. You still can be social. You can still you still can communicate with those that you care about and that care about you, those that support you and those that you support. And then lastly, just bringing up the mindfulness to you and others. One thing that is huge for me is to be mindful of my assumptions about others and how they are during this time of work from home. So you may be on video conference calls and you may be seeing other individuals on your team, cross-functional team, vendors that may be looking like, hey, they're coping with this work from home thing a little bit better than I am, or you know what, I'm coping better than they are. The whole judging aspect. I just ask you to be mindful to yourself and others. Once again, that judging thing, had uh, I had a huge problem with that before my diagnosis. Now I try to look at things with the glass half full. That you know what, if I'm focusing on myself and how my well-being is, then hopefully some of that can flow in and over to others that I'm interacting with. That it's not, oh well, she looks like she's doing fine. She's always, has a smile on her face, looks like she's in a good mood, is talking about, things that, that her and her family have done in their house, or who she's talked to, maybe friends from college across the country or across the world. Um, I just asked to try to maybe not be like I was, and to really focus on yourself and your well-being, and at the end of the day leave it like that, because it's going to take extra energy and extra stress to go over to that point of worrying about them, or even just having that gossip out there. And what I also do as well that I recommend, if you can or want to, is use a mindfulness or meditation app like Calm. Calm's the one I use. I'm not here pushing any products at all. I'm just here to tell you, here are the things that I've done and I do. Calm has, I believe, a free version as well as a paid, so you can pick. Another one is called Headspace, that is very popular out there. There's a ton out there, anything from having, just white noise in the background to, I actually sleep having the Calm app on with the ocean waves. So it's just very repetitive, and it allows me to wind down and to have that continuity as much as possible with my sleep. Uh, and so with that, I want to thank everybody who's really joined us today. I believe we might even have somebody from the UK, and I think it's going on 6 or 7 o'clock over there. So I really thank you, if you've joined today, to take the time, around your dinner time, to join us today. I really believe that these previous 9 strategies, they're effective and can be positive ways for you and your mental health to kind of cope. And you can extend some of these coping once this work from home order lifts. You're still able to do a lot of things I talked about when you're in the office as well. Just to have those things in mind. The sleep, you're always going to have the sleep. So whether you're working in your home office or you're working in your office downtown or satellite location, wherever that may be, you can do that. But I really feel that these strategies will increase your happiness, which is really what we're all really after, of being less stressed, focusing more on ourselves, focusing on the moment, accepting ourselves as we are, being okay. And we really can never have too much happiness. I'm someone that can attest to that. So with that, I want to say a big thank you to Andy and everybody with the AMA team to put this on. And are there any questions that have popped up? We just have a few minutes. Has anything
Yeah,
come to mind?
if you have anything to share, please do. We can take it via the chat or the Q&A. So however you're comfortable. But again, we appreciate you being here. Thank you, Justin, for your time. Yeah, it's nice to kind of hear about some of these things that you've learned, and how you put them into play. So I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Anybody with chat or with the Q&A? I know I put on there. It looks like Casey, you like Baroque music, and I listen to very hard stuff. So it's more breaking records than Baroque.
Yeah.
And I put on there, we didn't put a drinking poll, and that was just for everyone's. I can't say how much I drink per day now, but it sounds like I probably should cut back. No, I'm just. So is there anyone who would like to contribute any questions? I know Justin and we both have young kids under the age of 2. So I know will we be getting a copy? Yes. Casey will have this recorded, and we have the slides we can share. So both of all these references, because they're in a slide format, are links, and they are there for you guys to have. So we'll send it out to everyone who joined, and those who weren't able to join will have this on a recording as well. So anybody else? The big thing Justin and I had was, having this work from home and family. Any advice is what you're seeing works good for, obviously mental health, working from home?
I would say probably boundaries. So whether that's boundaries between you and your devices, whether that's boundaries between you and the content you're consuming, not to turn that totally off, because I can't say that I totally have everything, since any type of news story muted. I still do check and do look, but what I do is I just try to limit that. And everybody's different. I know that I need to be on the shorter end of the spectrum of looking at those types of things. Uh, but everybody is different. What I will say is having a supportive spouse is really, really key. So prior to my diagnosis, my wife will say the same thing. I didn't feel that she was 100% supportive of what I was going through. But the thing is she couldn't see, like I had a bruise on my arm or my knee. She couldn't see those types of things. So the mental aspect is something inside. So when I'd be in social settings, people couldn't see how stressed or how anxious that I was. It was really something that I had to, unfortunately, manifest so far into the length that it did for me. But having her support now, having her attend some of those sessions with me, she understands a little bit more, and I feel that is huge. Whether you have anything on the social or the mental illness spectrum or not, just having that supportive spouse, like, hey, I have an event tomorrow. Can I sleep through the night or close through the night, and you handle the young one during the night if he or she gets that's something that my wife kind of just does. We don't really talk about now. She just does it. So I think that's really key, and that comes with communication. Maybe I wasn't a good communicator before, But I like to think I'm a little bit better in sharing with her if things are getting tense or out. um, as far as if I'm going through a tough time or a tough instance.
The other, there was a question about what advice do you have to give to parents working from home with kids
Yeah.
when they also have to teach from home? And I don't know if you are in that spot or
Oh
not.
wow. Okay, so that's a good question. I hadn't really thought of it. I think once again, I believe it's the boundaries of whether it's scheduling the time. Okay, this is the time that I'm going to be spending on teaching today. This is the time I'm going to be spending on work. This is the time I'm going to be. Not that you have to get it down to like an exact hour, uh, but you probably should think about just at least having that in your mind, because I found that having structure isn't always a bad thing. It actually helps me in the way of knowing what I have to do and that repetitiveness. So the first couple of days, you try something and say, okay, I'm going to work my normal schedule, or this is when I'm going to teach, and just try different things, but just sprinkle in those breaks whenever you can during that time. So if you set up kind of a rough outline schedule of what you want, that's something that is very very important, and I think what I've learned, even just from hearing about LeBron James and somebody is super busy and is being pulled in a million different directions. Obviously, he doesn't. He's not in the span of okay. He's not able to get out or do these things. But the thing is, having 10 things to do or 20 things to do, he schedules his sleep. So his agent, his trainers, everybody's on board with I mean, just the sleep part. So I would say that if you just schedule it out, and if you have, I don't know how you do your how you do the teaching, and what types of visual aids you use for that, but a visual aid might help you just kind of, okay, from this time to this time, this is when I'm going to work, and this time to this time is when I'm going to be able to help with the children. This time is going to be when I'm going to be teaching, and then kind of let your students know that. So if you're not going to be able to be online at a certain time, that way you're not worrying about them contacting you, or trying to add to your tasks. This way that they'll know, like, okay, here's the time that he or she uh, is put forth of being when they're teaching, and so I know this is when I contact them. That's what I do for my office hours, virtual office hours. um, is I have certain times of the day and certain days of the week where, prior to this this work from home kind of complete order, where I would log on at a certain time and the students were able to log on at a certain time, and it would be a virtual office hour. They could ask anything, whether it was from an assignment that was due that day to a team member that's not helping out, to a final project that they're working on. And then that way it just became like routine. So it just was in my routine. Okay, 6 to 7 or 6 to 8, whatever that may be, on Mondays, that's going to be the time when I'm going to be available face to face over the video conference. I hope that helps with that question. That's a really good question.
Justin, I appreciate your time. I think that
Yeah,
is the questions we had.
perfect.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon virtually. Have a great one, guys.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.